Good morning, all. Today is the 26th of January 2020. Gonna go over a couple weekly trade ideas for this week. Obviously, we know that there's a lot of stuff going on with this coronavirus. Markets obviously taking a hit on that. Over the weekend, more and more cases of the coronavirus has been coming about, and so we know that the markets are probably going to see some more downside into the week. So what we need to do here is we need to be a little bit patient, a little bit observant, but I still believe that there should be some ideas that should be looked at for during the week. So these ideas for weekly trade ideas are based on levels of support, based on trends, based on the charts, and based on the potential that if we set some alerts and wait for some of these charts that they should be profitable into the week. So first one on this week's list is OSTK. We've seen this chart obviously have a nice little move here from the recent lows, come up to some areas of resistance, hit a double top, and obviously come down a little bit lower off of that. Now also obviously with the way that the market's been trading, we should understand that some of these levels of supports might not hold. So here we are with OSTK at a level of support at an uptrend here that the chart obviously previously made and broke to the upside. So we're going to look obviously for a play, risking the lows that the chart made on Friday as some sort of a reference for support for stops, and OSTK with a 1 2 3 downside day looking into an upside potential off of this level trend support on OSTK. Next one on the list for this week, ETSY, Etsy, ETSY. Okay, so here's Etsy. So now the thing that I'm looking at Etsy is the chart's obviously been topping a little bit. We know that this chart is in a recent uptrend from its big sell-off. And so I think that now that the chart's actually kind of coming up into this gap here, you can see this gap level on this chart. And so once we're coming up to this level here into the gap, I'm thinking that we can probably see some downside from that. So here's the exact fill on the gap, and we can see that the chart obviously showed some resistance at that level, and so I'm feeling like there's a potential here for ETSY to be shorted against this top side level. We know that the 200 SMA sits all the way up to the $56 level, which means that if your pivot points break to the upside and your short does not hold, then make sure that you exit the trade and possibly trade it to the 56 level. But this is an area here of interest with the gap fill again, and obviously with the weaker conditions in the market, looking to play this one on the short side on Etsy. Weight Watchers with a nice breakdown strategy here. I feel like obviously this level of interest that we looked at on Friday, 34.71, was that potential low breakdown area. Any lower than Friday session can capitulate this chart right into the 200 SMA on the daily, and that sits just about $30 here. So what we're going to look for is a basically 4 or 5 point short trade if we can get this support level to break to the downside. So what we're going to do is observe here. This is an idea that needs some observation more than just some action. What we need to do is make sure that the levels of support does not hold if of course we want to short it, and at this point it can also provide us with a good risk reward for a possible long trade. So this one is definitely something that I'll be looking at to trade this week, either long or short. Again, these are weekly trade ideas, which means that if the chart gives us an opportunity to trade them, we will go right ahead and take the trade. So right now, as it sits, unless something happens overnight and we gap down tomorrow and all the charts turn upside down, then that's something else. But for right now, we can look at a low risk reward on Weight Watchers for that long trade. And of course, if we break to the downside, we play that thing on the short side to the 200 SMA. PTON, I feel like the chart showed a lot of strength on Friday right into the close, so a lot of buyers coming into it. I like that hammer candle right off the trend line reversal. This is definitely something that I'm interested in trading during the week. I'll be looking to trade it on the long side, seeing the strength. So earlier into the session on Monday, I will be looking for dips to buy long into on Pton, just based on the fact of how the chart performed into the end of the session on Friday. LK. I like LK for a little downside momentum here. I feel like the chart still can see some capitulation to the downside, and I would like to play this one on the short side on LK. There are obviously some trend lines here that are being breached a little bit. So what we can look for is we can earlier on into the session, into the week, we can look for the potential bounce trades. But if sellers come in, and we have seen volume starting to rise here, if sellers start back to come into this chart, we can have a nice downside short play, possibly all the way back into the low 30s here on this LK. So this could be a very nice short play. Initially, we would expect to see some support, some buyers show up where they should, and that's where they should right here. But on the bigger aspect, if we were to break here, the low 30s can be a very nice place for us to look at. BYND continues to be nice and strong, even though this chart is very rangy, even though this chart is very aggressive. There's nothing bearish about this setup right now. I think all we have to do here is wait, see how the charts react, see how the markets come in here, and play this BYND on the long side. Chart wants to move to the upside. If it just was able to get maybe some strength from the markets, I think this chart wants to break to the upside. My play on this one on BYND is to try testing it on the long side. When the chart starts to curl intraday or breaks out, it gives me a reason to take it long. I'd like to play this chart BYND on the long side during this week, seeing the strength still on the daily chart and breaking that down into an intraday trade. Grubhub right up to the 200 SMA on the daily. I'm going for a short against that trade this week. I want to play it short against that level, just like we did on ZS on last week. During last week, we got the trade to come up to the 200 SMA and really had a nice short. And so what we're looking here for this week on Grubhub is basically the same setup, lower buy-in volume as it comes up to the double top and the 200 SMA. We're playing for a nice short here on Grubhub into the week, and so this one is going to be a focus trade on the short side. CREE earnings coming up here in a few sessions. Lots of earnings charts this week, and nice bearish engulfing on Friday right at the 200 SMA. Technically, it's a short into pops on CREE. So what I'd like to see is I'd like to see an early recovery, an attempt to try to bring this chart back over the 200 SMA, and then take it on the short side on CREE during the week. Disney coming right down to a 200 SMA on the daily. This is a big chart at a 200 SMA on the daily chart. It should give you an idea for this week to play it long on Disney off the 200 SMA. If we are to miss that 200 SMA on the daily chart on Disney, now we have a gap all the way down here into the 133s. A lot of people like to play gaps, and a lot of people believe in gap fills, and there's definitely one here. There's even a little one down here all the way down to $130. And so with earnings coming up here, let's see if we see buyers at the 200 SMA. We know their subscriber numbers has been really good. We should expect that to reflect on their earnings. I would play it long on Disney off the 200 SMA this week. SQ has been showing a lot of strength recently. Closed over the 200 SMA repeatedly. Came back, pulled into it. Chart's giving us a beautiful cup and handle setup here on SQ leading into this week. We saw a nice break over that handle on Friday, showing a lot of strength on Friday. Closing nice and green on Friday, even with the markets being absolutely weak. So this shows us strength leading into the week. Square also becomes one of my focus trade this week, buying into dips as we saw the strength into a weak market close. So for right now, those are the 10 that I have for this week. For right now, Square, Disney, CREE, GRUB, BYND, LK, PTON, Weight Watchers, ETSY, and OSTK. Let's have a good week this week, guys. Take care.